ask you about private lending.
Okay.
Because private lending is it can be really powerful and sometimes like a lifeline, right? Like
Absolutely. Sometimes it's the only way.
it's the only way, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the, I'll say, general population or the new investor will think of just like the A lenders, the TDs of the world, and let's face it, their criteria is like
every deal, every opportunity has its match when it comes to lending. And it has its limitations on what is going to be able to fund it. Usually people look at private lending like the last resort.
Yes.
I do almost all of my deals and my partnerships and everything like that exclusively on private lending. I mean, it's imperative to my business model, really. I'm not a bankable guy. Last year I went full time
in the business.
So I left my full time job, my day job, and the banks don't like that. The banks want you to obviously have a job, which is important. I do have a job, but I don't have a job of any period of time. And my businesses are not of any age that's useful. There's no financial records that are 3-4 years of finances. So I'm not bankable. Like, a bank does not like my file. But what I do have and what I'm able to leverage is relationships and knowledge.
Yes.
And that's what private lending really is. You can have a partner and you own half of a building and they own half of a building and they're financing it. Cool. Or you can have a partner that you're paying some amount of interest to and you own the building completely. Also cool. It's the same deal. It's a similar relationship. And it's just, that higher expense is just, or that higher interest is just an expense of doing business.
Yeah.
And it's all about this relationship building. And that's why even as I become more and more bankable on my purchase of new deals, trying to be agile, and not have to go through
the hoops and
all the different hoops and everything.
Yeah.
You build up credibility with your investors and your lenders. And private money is the easiest, quickest way to do that. You're dealing with individuals usually.
It's true, and I think a lot of people are turned off by the higher interest, right?
Yeah.
And they think, 8%. But if you can close quickly and do your flip or burr it, I'll use the burr strategy, and burr quickly, then the exposure to that higher interest rate becomes negligible.
Like the banks won't deal with me in my file. So my options are, and I'm happy with my options, are get it closed quickly with private financing and build a relationship and pay. I've paid all the way up to 15% and all the way down to 6% on private financing. Pay that expense, that cost of doing business, acquire the property, and depending on the property, if it's a flip, make $50,000. Oh no, I made $45,000 instead of $50,000. I'd rather do that than the alternative being not being able to get financing and just not doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's
just a
cost of doing business.
It's a cost of doing business, and it's not that costly.
No, and if your deal does not work, especially if you're talking flips, if your deal doesn't work because of an added expense of a few $1,000s, even $5,000-$10,000, then that probably wasn't a good deal to begin with. If your margins are that tight.
Yeah, agreed. So you heard it here first. Private lending is it's not a bad word.
It's not your last resort.
It's not your last resort. It should be closer to the top of your list, and it's all about developing relationships and cultivating those connections. And it's not just the banks. Like the banks, it's just more of a vanilla. There's less creativity there, right? Less versatility there. So definitely a strong strategy when you're trying to deploy your projects.
Yep, absolutely.